Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our 14th episode of Norrice Lea TV. Sitting here with Rabbi Beatie, and coming up in tonight's episode, we will be meeting Karen Pollock of the Holocaust Educational Trust. We meet Beattie Deutsch, Israel's Olympic team marathon mother, and Ella Marchant, our very own youngest CST volunteer.
Wonderful. So we are very honored to have Karen Pollock from the Holocaust Education Trust talk with Rabbi Friedman, and talking about the terrible images that we were just seeing about the Uighurs. The fact that it's only 70 years at post-Holocaust, and we said never again, and this is still going on. It's just shocking.
I know. I mean, I've seen the news recently. This week is Tisha B'Av. Wednesday night and Thursday, the saddest day in the Jewish calendar, where we lament not just the destruction of both our temples, but all the atrocities that have happened to the Jewish people in the past 2,000 years, including the Holocaust, of course. But yet, similar things are still happening. It's not a joke, and we need to do something.
It's horrible that is still going on. So let's hear what Karen Pollock tells Rabbi Friedman. Over to you.
Shalom, Karen Pollock. Welcome to Norrice Lea TV. It's such an honor to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Rabbi Friedman. It's an honor to join you, and having seen the stellar list of interviewees on your program, I'm very honored to join you.
Well, thank you. Well, yeah, I'm not sure that it's every day that we have someone who has been honored with an MBE, and it's quite a privilege to have you here. But of course, for us, you're just part of the extended Norrice Lea family, being Simon and Rachel Pollock's sister. And so we are honored to call you a member of the family and to have a wonderful conversation with you today. Now, today, we'll be talking about your general work with the Holocaust Educational Trust, and some recent news that you've been involved with the Uighurs in China. So how about let's start with a bit of background. Tell us what the Holocaust Educational Trust does, and your involvement with it, how you got to it, and how you would like us to be involved in any way as the Jewish public.
Thank you. If I told you how I got involved, this would be a very long program. So I'll give you a summary, and also thank you for the shout out to my brother Simon and sister-in-law Rachel and the Pollock family. I'm very happy to be part of the extended Norrice Lea community. Briefly, to tell you about the Holocaust Educational Trust, I've been working there for many, many years. Before that, I was working with the all-party parliamentary group on anti-Semitism and the Britain-Israel parliamentary group, and slowly started working with the Holocaust Educational Trust as well, and realized there was real room for involving parliamentarians more in our work and educating them about the history of the Holocaust, but also anti-Semitism today. And I just saw that there was an opportunity for the organization to have even more of a role and growth in this country, in schools around the country. So I'm proud that with a really brilliant and ever expanding team, we work in schools and colleges all across the UK. We organise for Holocaust survivors to give their testimony in schools. We train teachers to teach about the Holocaust in a sensitive and accessible and effective way. We organise for young people. We have a government-supported program where we take thousands of young people to visit Auschwitz, and they come back as our ambassadors, and we have this ambassador program where young people are sharing the legacy of the Holocaust, carrying the message of why it's important to remember and to remember the testimony of survivors, but also very much sensitized to the world we live in today and wanting to make a difference. That is in a nutshell what we do. We're a charity. Many of your members are supporters and are involved in the organization. And, I'm very proud of what we do. I think we regard our mission very much to ensure that the Holocaust and its lessons are at the forefront of the agenda, maintaining it on the history curriculum and ensuring that high quality Holocaust education continues.
Well, that's extraordinary. Thank you for everything you're doing for our British nation as a whole. It's such vital work that you're doing, but how are you doing it during COVID? It must be impossible.
It has its challenges, I won't deny it, and I know that that's the same for everybody who's found themselves in this new position of having to work and lead their lives in this unusual way. I'm really proud of what the team have managed to achieve. We've got everyone's being extremely creative, and there's a real pace, and actually we adapted all of our work very soon after we had to work remotely to bring everything online, as you were doing with this program. So, you know, we made all of our resources accessible immediately to teachers, so they didn't have to sign up or register with us, but literally just free and accessible. We adapted our resources to be used, home resources, family learning about the Holocaust. We set up webinars for our teacher training, and we had this incredible ambassador conference series. So our young ambassadors, usually once a year, they all gather together. There's a real buzz, and it's a really uplifting, motivating day where they hear from some very interesting speakers. Instead, for 5 weeks, we had, not daily, I'd say 3 or 4 sessions a week, where they heard from the likes of Nick Robinson, the BBC's Nick Robinson, Rachel Riley, who, as you know, had to deal with a lot of abuse and anti-Semitism as a result of what was going on in the past few years in politics, Lord John Mann, the anti-Semitism czar, but also experts on the Holocaust. So experts from Yad Vashem, Professor Tim Cole from Bristol, who talks about the geographical reach of the Holocaust. And genuinely, I mean, the list goes on, but we were really proud to be able to reach hundreds of young people. And there was a real energy, and many of them said, if we hadn't have done it, they would have been doing nothing. They didn't have to do it. Schools and teachers didn't get them to do it. They just joined in. And I should say something about our survivors.
How are they coping?
Extraordinarily in the circumstances, I have to say. I mean, they never fail to inspire me, really. You know, we may struggle on occasion with Zoom, but they're fine. They got onto Zoom, they got onto Microsoft Teams. They're speaking to, we did morning sessions with them where they would have a morning tea via Zoom with a small group of young people. We've started doing outreach sessions, which instead of them going in person to a school, they're on Zoom, and we've had a number of schools all together tune in, so hundreds of people at once listening and then asking questions. These survivors, I mean, I've got to know them now over many years. I regard them very much as sort of, you know, they're like extended family members. You know, I stay in touch with as many as I can. I call them a lot. And they're amazing. And, you know, they must
be teaching a thing or two to the kids about resilience at this point.
Exactly right. I mean, one of them, who is incredible, Lily Ebbott. I mean, I feel bad to name only one because they're all amazing, but Lily is an incredible woman who, she won't tell you she's 96, but it's pretty certain she's 96. And she survived Auschwitz. And whenever I speak to her and I ask her how she is and is it a bit frustrating, and she sits in her garden, but she can't go out, and she just says, you know, I was in Auschwitz. That's her answer. It's a bit like, you know, we'll manage. And others, Susan Pollock, who is in the Hampstead Garden suburb area, she just said to me something to the effect of, what did she say? She just said something, it was so sweet. She said, you know, tell everybody who's nervous and who's upset or worried, it will be okay, we'll get through it. It's just, it's extraordinary. They're giving me messages of support and trying to encourage other people when it should be the other way around. They're in their 80s and 90s. It is frustrating. They love being out and about. Many of them are real social butterflies and find this unusual, but they're doing really well.
Right, right. Well, you know, Yashikar to you, you know, for the fabulous work that the Holocaust Education Trust does on every level of society, from the survivors to educating our youngsters. Let's shift gears a little now. Over the last week, you've written a couple of op-ed pieces about
Mhm.
the situation with the Uyghur Muslim population of China and the oppression and human rights issues that they are enduring right now. Can you speak to a little about what you know of what's going on and why you've decided to get involved as from the perspective of the ATT?
So, I mean, Rabbi Friedman, you're aware, as I am, that we witness awful events pretty much all of the time, whether it's local events that we think are outrageous and appalling and upsetting, or international ones. It's not, sadly, that isn't unusual. The reason I felt it was important to make some sort of intervention around the plight of the Uyghurs, it's multifaceted. I mean, what I should say is, I really agonized over this. I feel very, very strongly that we have to protect and defend the truth of the Holocaust and its unique place and unprecedented nature and impact on human history. I think that it's a defining episode in our history, and it does stand alone.
Right.
But if we say never again, that means we want to prevent anything like it happening again.
Right.
I would not falsely equate the Holocaust with another event, since, but that doesn't mean that there aren't warning signs. And I think that there were certain echoes. We saw there's something like over 1 million Uyghur Muslims being detained in what are being called re-education camps. We have seen footage of blindfolded Uyghur Muslims being forced onto trains. We've seen 13 tons of shaved hair from Uyghur women, and we know that there is a mass sterilization program. I think that there are certain echoes that we can't really escape. I think it's very shocking to read about it and hear about it. And I'm not denying that the plight of the Uyghurs is something that it didn't suddenly happen. It's been happening. But this that came to light and that was far more centerfold, I felt that we'd had a duty to say something. And what really pushed me was I saw the Chinese ambassador being interviewed by Andrew Ma on Sunday morning on the Ma program. Right. And when he was shown footage of these prisoners being blindfolded and put onto trains, he sort of pushed it away and said, I don't know what that is. I haven't seen this. I mean, it was a chilling denial. And it was something that I felt that we're in this global interconnected world. We weren't in the 30s and 40s. But I would like to think that if people had seen an interview with somebody recognizing, somebody representing Hitler's regime, the Nazi regime, that good people would have just said, hang on a second, this isn't all right. So that pushed me to write initially. And also, I just think there's something about, we know because of our own experience. And I should be clear, my family weren't murdered in the camps. They weren't murdered during the Holocaust, but it is still part of my Jewish history. And I think we as Jews understand what it means to be discriminated against. And we understand when others, we understand sort of that deafening silence when we think we're on our own. And so I did feel it was a duty, but I should be clear and sort of go back to what I said at the beginning. I'm not equating it to the Holocaust, but I do think still we should be saying something. It isn't only our problem, it's all of our problems. Just as we've said that racism and anti-Semitism is a problem for all society, I think when we're seeing what looks like ethnic cleansing, and we don't know where this might lead, but we know where it has led before, that there's a responsibility here.
Right, well, it was awful to see really the indifference on his face. It's one thing to say, I don't know, I haven't seen that footage, but it's another thing then not to say, well, let me figure out what's going on here. That's awful. So, well done for writing that piece. But where to from here? I mean, we can say things, write things, but how do we get international action on something as egregious as this?
I haven't got the answers. I think that the spotlight on the cause is certainly a first step, and that is happening, and we are seeing people talk about it far more than they ever were, even I'd say 2 weeks ago. Obviously, we're looking also at our international politics in general, where as a result, there is more of a focus on this particular cause. But I suppose we, I haven't got a to-do list here, but what I would say is just not to remain silent and to talk about it as well. And I think it can be a bit confusing and a bit, we don't have all the information. And also, I feel particularly so loyal and responsible to our survivors that, it's not that we are above others that we have a duty to say this. It's just that, isn't it part of our upbringing and our heritage and our religious sort of moral duty? And I have to say, I was really encouraged when I saw Rabbi Sachs posted a thread about exactly that, about, we have it's about humanity, isn't it?
Right. Yes, well done. And, please God, the protests and comments will continue until something does actively take place. And it does seem like you're saying that governments are listening and this will make a difference. But please God, this will be something that will have concrete steps that will materialize. Let me move on to a different part of back to the Holocaust Education Trust, and something that you set the wheels in motion for, an incredible project, is the memorial, the Holocaust Memorial at Westminster. I know I've had a number of conversations with Gerald Ronson and Lord Eric Pickles, and it's really amazing that this is happening, and I know you've played a major role in it. Could you tell us about it and tell us where we're up to with it?
Thank you. I don't want to overplay my role. I think it's a very much a team effort. What I would say is it was at the Holocaust Educational Trust big sort of appeal dinner in 2013, when the then Prime Minister, David Cameron, announced that there would be a commission to look into how we preserve the memory of the Holocaust for future generations. And that was chaired by Mick Davis. And it was the result of that commission that explored what was going on in the country and what more could be done. And one of the outcomes, a key outcome, was that there would be a national place to remember the Holocaust, and sort of really enforcing the point that the Holocaust is our story, not just Jews, but our British story. And there is a story for Britain, whether it's to do with taking in the kinder transport, whether it's to do with fighting alongside the Allies, defeating Nazism, but also whether it's sometimes about some of the more difficult parts of British history, whether we're talking about the Channel Islands. It is a mixed and complicated story, but so many Holocaust survivors came to this country after the war. They rebuilt their lives. They have their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and have contributed a huge amount to this country. And I really look forward to seeing that National Memorial and Learning Centre that pays tribute to the history and some of the difficult questions around it, but also to these incredible people who have really invested in this country too. The current situation is that it's there are issues around the planning, but it's going to be built next to the Parliament in Victoria Tower Gardens, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it in reality.
Excellent. It's good to hear. Good to hear we're on track. I know everything's slowed down this year, but please God, we will see it very soon. So thank you so much, Karen, for joining us today. Thank you for everything you do for the Jewish community and really for the entire country. And it's been an honor to have you on Norrice Lea TV, and we wish you much success in all of your personal and HET endeavors.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Karen and Rabbi Friedman. Very interesting and very true. Yeah, we need to be educated about these things. We can't do anything about it if we don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, Rabbi Guntag, we do that with the Poland trips, right? To the youth, and Yom HaShoah, we have these amazing speakers that come and teach everybody educate them.
Absolutely.
About the Holocaust.
Very, very important. And a lot of survivors really only started speaking out later on in their lives after they'd built their futures. But then they said, now we can't forget. First, they built a future, then they looked back and they said, we can't forget this. And it's really next generation's responsibility to continue that going. And you shall tell your children, as the Pasuk says,
Right, absolutely. And never again. And that's why we need to speak out when we see images such as we saw actually, it came out on TikTok, which is interesting because, it's a Chinese app and
made in China.
Made in China, like many things. And, do we boycott? Do we say, you know what, that's it, we're going to speak out against them? At the same time, if we didn't have the TikTok, we wouldn't have seen the images. So maybe we need to work from the inside. And it was also quite interesting to hear about the Holocaust Monument, to see where they're up to with that. We were wondering what's going on. I guess like everything else with COVID, it's been put on hold.
Well, weren't you involved with the Holocaust Monument in Canada?
Yes. We actually were first, there was the only allied country without its capital having a monument. And so we did that just a few years ago with Rabbi Friedman chairing it. So that was important project as well.
I did see the Canadian flag last year on holidays. We were on the Normandy beaches, so you've got the Canadian flag there, we noticed. Okay.
So now, switching gears, we meet the marathon mom of, unbelievable, who represents Israel in the Olympics. She's being the spokesperson for the Olami Walk to Israel. How do you think you're going to walk to Israel? Can you do that, Rabbi Guntag? Walk to Israel? What does that mean?
If I'm standing just outside the border, yes. I mean, I've walked to Scotland.
You walked to Scotland. All right. Well, let's meet Beattie Deutsch. Welcome, Beattie Deutsch, to Norrice Lea TV. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All the way from Israel. This is a real honor and very exciting to have you here. You're a true inspiration to me personally and to many others, being what we all now know as the marathon mom, winning representing Israel, God willing, in the Olympics. So very, very exciting to have you here. So first, tell us a little bit about yourself. Firstly, your name, Beattie. Where does that come from? What's the origin of that?
Beattie's. I think this is the first time I'm answering this question in an interview, but it's a good question. So Beattie is short for Beatrice, and my full name is actually Beatrice Rose. I'm named for my great-grandmother. It's definitely one of those ancient names. Like whenever I tell people it's Beatrice, they're like, "Oh, my grandmother was named that." I'm like, it's not this generation.
one of the classic names, like Millie.
My parents' name is Bracha, which they mean the same thing, really. Beatitude is like blessing and bracha is blessing. But I always just went my life by Beattie, and I'm so used to it by now. And now it's funny, people call me Speedy Beattie now. But the thing is, when I was younger, so I wasn't like running, but whenever we'd play like ball games, I was known as being like the fastest to run after the ball. So my friends used to joke and call me Speedy Beattie. Like I never dreamed it would come back to, haunt me again.
Unbelievable. They're like, they're giving you the prophesizing already back then. So tell us a little bit how you got into running. How did that all begin?
Well, I was really out of shape because I had not exercised at all for 6 years. I had 4 kids, thank God, in 6 years. And the crazy thing to me is just like how I let myself go without exercising for 6 years, like how I didn't realize how much I needed it, because I am a naturally active, athletic, energetic person. But like when you're so busy giving to everyone else, you kind of sometimes forget about yourself and you just like put yourself low on the list. So I had a moment of like realization that I was so out of shape when I could not keep up with any of my family members in like 100 meters on the beach. I just like huffing and puffing, was like dead last. I told my husband, like, I had supported him. He was into biking, and he did a big charity bike ride. So I said to him at the end of that summer, like, all right, I want to do something too. I'm like, that's it. I'm running a marathon. And most people just like think I'm nuts. Like, why did you go from like not exercising to marathon? And it is a little crazy, but I definitely am like more of an extreme personality. And the thing that I recognized about myself is that I really wanted consistency in exercise in my life. Like, I wanted to be a person that went out and ran, 4 times a week. And I was struggling so much with the consistency. So I said, if I set a goal that is obligate me to train and is so big that I must train for it, then I will get that consistency. And like, I figured any other distance, I could have kind of like winged it, but like there's no winging a marathon. So like once I set that goal, it was like, I am committed to this.
Wow.
And the rest is history. It was like life-changing.
It's amazing. I mean, there, I'm like myself, and there are, a few others that actually took this on to start running and, doing a 5K, a 10K, and then even a half marathon. But when you started running, you Speedy Beattie, like, how did you know this was it? Like, you were the one, like you had this talent and this amazing skill to just go be that leader. How'd you figure that out?
It wasn't right away. I didn't have like this aha moment, like I step onto the track and it's like, here is my destiny. Like,
okay.
I really did enjoy running from the beginning, that I will say. And honestly, why did I choose running? Because like, it's a very low investment sport. Like, I didn't have any money or equipment to invest, and you don't need anything for running, literally. Like, your feet, pair of sneakers, and like your own desire to get out there, and that's it. And I really enjoyed just moving my body. But the moment that I realized that I had a gift of running was actually, hold on 1 minute. You really need to go into your bedroom now. I'm not standing here, okay? It's late. My daughter could actually repeat everything I'm saying. She's heard me say this.
She's heard it so many times.
But when I signed up, marathon, no time goal, no expectation, just like cross the finish line. And a month before the marathon, my husband said to me, like, you don't want to just cross the finish line. You want to know when you cross that finish line that you gave it your all. And I remember I was like almost insulted. Like, are you kidding? Like, it's not enough to do a marathon. And he basically was pressuring me to try and set a goal, like a time goal. And he encouraged me to go run a half marathon and see what I could do on a half marathon, 13 miles, like what 13.1 miles, what my time would be. And then he said, based on that, we could plug it into our race predictor and tell me what I should be capable of in the full marathon. And I was just like, don't pressure me, but I listened. I ran my own little half marathon, not an official race, just like 13 loops in the park, came home, and I had finished in like, I felt good by the end. So I was like getting faster and faster. And I finished in 1 hour and 41 minutes. And he said to me, like, you should be able to run the marathon in 3.5 hours. I remember when I heard that, I was like, you're nuts. Like, that's crazy. Because he was telling me I'm going to run this distance that I've never run in my life at a pace of 8 minutes per mile that I was not running on any of my runs because we train slower. Like, all my long runs are much slower. And
he's your real Aza Conegdo, challenging you.
Literally. I always say, like, you really need someone. We ourselves don't have potential, and you need that person to like push you and encourage you. Only because he was insistent about it, he went and bought me a watch. He programmed it so like it would literally like beep if I went too fast or too slow. There was like a range of pace for every mile. And he basically like really boosted me up there, like I could do this. And I didn't really have much of a choice. I went out there with his encouragement to accomplish his goal. And I ended up crossing the finish line in 3 hours and 27 minutes.
Wow. And you were pregnant, right? Were you that when you were pregnant?
No, people confuse that. I ran my second marathon 7 months pregnant, but wow. I was just so blown away by how I hadn't even realized I had this strength within me. And that marathon showed me that, the greatest growth in life happens when you step out of your comfort zone, because only like if I hadn't taken that risk, and stepped out of my comfort zone and done something that was scary and terrifying and uncomfortable. I didn't know if I was gonna succeed or fail. I could have blown up. It could have not worked out. Only because I did that did I discover this gift that I had, you know, because most people don't run their first marathon after 4 months of training in the time I did. And it made me realize like that, wow, I am good at running. Hashem has blessed me with this. But only because I put myself through that challenging experience did I discover that, uncover that part of myself, which was so eye-opening for life in general, because we all do go through situations that are uncomfortable and challenging. And sometimes we really don't want to have those experiences. And we like shift our perspective and ask ourselves, what am I learning about myself that I didn't know before? And how am I stepping away from this a changed person? And how is this taking me to the next level of growth? Like, how is this helping me become the best version of myself? And when you open yourself up to those possibilities and realize like, yes, they come through the challenges, it's like, it's a game changer. So
wow.
That was what running introduced to me. It's been the greatest metaphor of life for me. And like I always say, it's so much more than the physical. Like people start out thinking they're going to run because they want to get in shape. And that's true, but you're going to run and get in shape. And then your whole life is so many other possibilities in your life are going to open up because you're going to change as a person.
Absolutely. Your mind just opens up. I know, it's just, you just, your mind is free and you become like that. Yeah, it's really an amazing feeling and experience. So you're opening up. We have a very exciting weekend coming up. The Olami Walk to Israel, from the diaspora to Israel. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And you're representing this amazing challenge to everybody.
Yeah, so I was involved with Olami actually. I've been involved since 2012, and this is like the first year that I haven't personally been able to bring students to Israel, which is really sad because of Corona. Right. And so I think that it's an amazing, obviously this is a whole different type of initiative, but in the spirit of us not being able to go to Israel, trying to walk to Israel. And the goal is for everyone to commit to walking or running 100 miles in the next month from starting August 2nd. Some people are taking the challenge over 2 months. I think sometimes having a challenge, there's a balance between having a challenge that's a little bit too over your head, but it should be above your comfort zone, as I said. And this is, I think it's a really initiative because I think Corona, if anything, has shown us how important it is to be active, to get healthy, to get out there, and how much there are a lot of things that are out of our control, and there's a lot of things that aren't open. But one thing that is in our control and is always open is like the fresh air and the outdoors and the moving our body. And I believe that having a goal could really help people who might have been nervous or not pushed themselves to motivate them to get out there and do it. And that once you start in these small steps and say, I'm going to make, consistently walk or run 6 days a week, for a month, like it's transformative. They say it takes 30 days to integrate a new habit. Like when I started waking up early, I said, give it 30 days because it's hard. And once you do 30 days, if you really don't like it, you could go back. Right. But here it is. We're all together, Jews from all over the world, challenging ourselves for 30 days. Can we make this running or walking a part of our life? So I'm really excited about it because I think it's going to give so many people a life-changing opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think it's about, what is it? It's about 10,000 steps a day or 4 miles.
Steps a day. Yeah,
right. So it's feasible.
Steps. It's definitely doable, 100%.
Right. I mean, we had here in London, I don't know if you heard of Captain Tom, who was this elderly man who wanted to raise funds for the local NHS, for the National Health System here. And he walked in his yard with his walking stick. And it was amazing that he just did that in his backyard, back and forth and back and forth. And it's something that is important in, you know, across the board. So it's really inspirational for you to be able to spearhead and do this kickoff on Sunday next week, and we look forward to it. So how does it? Do people need to sponsor it? How does it work exactly?
Yeah, so everyone's being, like, the minimum fundraising amount is $250, which is also not even so much. That's what we're asking people to raise. It's really not a lot, but we're going to hopefully get a lot of walkers together. I think that, you know, Olami does so much to raise awareness of Judaism, and to really educate and empower the next generation of Jews. And we're facing so much anti-Semitism these days, and we as the Jews need to know, why are we Jewish? Why do we do what we do? What makes us unique? Like, that's how we combat anti-Semitism, to be proud of what it means to be Jewish, to, you know. So I think that now more than the work Olami is doing is so important. And like, I'm always someone who's really scared of fundraising. But when I heard this amount, I thought, we can all do this. Like I said, part of it is like, you know, you might have to step out of your comfort zone a little bit to ask people, but like, it's for such a worthy cause. And I think it's, you know, when everyone comes together, what we could do, you know, as one nation is really powerful.
That's great. So Olami is just a little to let the viewers know a little bit more about it. They're an umbrella organization that does education towards Judaism and I guess Jewish identity. I think like Aish is under that.
Yeah, Olami has organizations all over the world. They are the umbrella organization for, you know, like 100 organizations in the United States, both with college students and young professionals. In Israel, a whole network of programs, South America, Europe, France, Russia, South Africa, really all corners of the globe. I've been involved like in working directly like for one of the organizations under Olami when I actually lived in Tucson, Arizona, and I worked with college students on campus there. And then I worked on a national level, reaching out and following up to students all over the United States. And I saw, like, when I was on campus, I personally saw how many Jews really knew nothing about what it means to be Jewish, and how, you know, I think key element of Olami is that education and leadership that they give to students, so that students are empowered to go out there and also give back to the Jewish community in their own ways, you know?
Right, absolutely. I mean, this is they're at such a pivotal point in their life. It's really important that they get that basis, the foundation. So you're in Israel at the moment. So you've made Aliyah from the States. You've been there quite a few years, and now you're training for the Olympics.
That's the goal. Yeah.
Another goal? You've done the marathon?
There's a couple obstacles, I think. I was on the path before Corona hit. I was actually, my most recent marathon put me in the top 80 ranking, and that was what I needed to technically qualify.
Wow.
Then the Olympics got postponed, and they said you have to rerun the stand, like re-qualify for the following year. So we don't know even now. I think some people are actually skeptical about if the Olympics will happen even. And there was the issue that the date of the marathon was moved to Shabbat. So said, I want to qualify either way and represent Israel. Like, I would go as an Olympian for Israel, even if I'm not able to run. I want to make it there as as a representative, a marathon runner from Israel. And hopefully, so I'm still training. I'm still putting in all the work, and I enjoy it. I think it's I think every day that I have this opportunity, it's amazing. Different ways, my personality, I feel like I has given me the tools I need to do this. So I'm
well, yeah, it is. It's a true, really amazing feat. And I'm sure many mothers out there are asking, how do you do it? How do you how do you balance it all? You know, what, 5 kids now? So where do you find the time? I mean, you need the time to train. So you go early morning, and it seems like, I know it, an important part is having a supportive husband, and it sounds like he's your personal trainer a little bit, challenging you to.
Not anymore. He doesn't coach me anymore, but he's very supportive.
You let that to the professionals now. Okay.
Yeah. I think every mother struggles with a juggling act, no matter what field you're in. And actually, I find that being a professional runner gives you a lot more flexibility. Like, I was working full-time for Olami. I was trying to train seriously because I enjoyed it, and I tried to fit in a lot of running. And I was a mom. And now that I took off I don't have to spend a lot of time on my phone or computer. I do have to get up early and run, and I juggle like the balance of, you know, obviously I have a lot more on my plate than most professional athletes who can just think about training, recovery, eating, you know, sleeping. That's it. That's their life. But I also think we have to, because I'm not like, my life is not just like obsessed with my running times. Like, I'm so busy with like my family and everything that, like, yeah, if a workout didn't go great, like fine, like the next day will be better. Like, it doesn't stress me out. When I show up to race, I'm just like, okay, there in the moment, but then like I can be very present with what I'm doing, and it doesn't consume me. So I think it's actually a good balance. And I find that exercise really energizes me. Like, my morning runs, I come back so ready to take on my kids' morning routine, or like at the end of the day, after I do, you know, dinner with my kids, I go out for like a shorter jog, and like, it's like my wind down decompression time after the whole long day with my kids. So like,
it's your me time.
Balances it out. Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah.
And I think that all mothers like really need, one thing that I've really learned is like, you need to make time for yourself. I think exercise as a mom is so important, and it could be counterintuitive in the beginning because you're sometimes so exhausted from your like taking care of your kids, you feel like you have no energy. But once you start going out and doing it, you will always, I guarantee you will always come back feeling better. I tell people that all the time. Like, I've never met someone who came back from a run and said like, oh, I feel worse now. They always feel better.
Right.
You just have to get your shoes on. That's the hardest part.
That's right. That's right. You have to get out. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and Yasher Koach on the tremendous work that you're doing, and specifically for Olami coming up this next week. We're looking forward to seeing you. You can view it on the website, and we encourage many, we encourage many to join in the walk or the run, and to get out there and do what you can. So, Yasher Koach, thank you again, and we continue Hatzlacha. You know the work that you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, that was really interesting and inspirational. What a woman, to be able to start running and then be the champion of the winner of the Jerusalem and Tiberias Marathon is really a great feat. And we have our local triathlete here, the Karina Kaufman.
Our first lady.
Our first lady, that's right. She represents.
Is the wife of the president, called the Presidentson.
Presidentson.
Yeah.
Or the chair, they call it here. So is it the chair S?
Okay.
In any event, she represents Great Britain, and due to COVID, unfortunately, a lot has shut down. The World Triathlon has shut down for her, so she's continuing training, as is Beatie. And I think it's a great challenge to walk to Israel. It's about, like we mentioned, 10,000 steps a day, 4 miles. You like to walk, Rabbi Tag, or do you run?
For 4 years, I've been doing 10,000 steps a day, minimum.
Minimum, right?
Yeah.
There you go. So you're already doing it. So you're already.
Weight off. I lost a lot of weight many years ago and haven't put it back on. I think it's, trying to eat carefully, but walking is better. Without doing real strenuous exercise, I don't even jog. Just walk.
Walk. I mean, that's a recommended amount to do. And it's important, I think, also mentally, right? I know that's what.
Yeah, especially we've got nice places here to do it. We used to live up north. We lived at the promenade. There was no problem there. But here we're opposite the Heath, which is also lovely.
Right.
And even if you don't want to go in the Heath at night, just walk around the streets here. It's usually very quiet. the very pretty area, Hampstead Garden suburb, and I'm going to put earphones in. Nice.
And off you go. Yeah, so I think it's a great challenge, and it's a great cause, and what better month to do it in. And so we'll see, August 2nd is the kickoff to see her kickstart the event. Looking forward to that. And now we're very excited to introduce our member, Ella Marchant.
Yes, right? Now Ella Marchant, I came to shul last Shabbat. I thought I'll come early, you know, to get ready. I wanted to see the people leaving Ashkama before we got to the next minyan. And she was there. She's a 21-year-old girl. And I was like, and she said, oh, Shabbat Shalom, welcome. I thought it was really, really nice. And I said, straight away, I said, right, I want you on Norrice Lea TV because, you know, I hope that people see her, what she does, that should inspire others as well. The best way of educating people is by example. End of the day, we need more volunteers, as always, especially, you know, thinking ahead towards the Yom Noraim, where we don't know what exactly it will look like. Don't worry, you will be notified. But there may be services, satellite minyanim here and there, and, you know, there may be security concerns. We're going to need more, you know, all hands on deck, as they say. And she's done the training, you know, she doesn't mess around, she's done it properly, she loves what she's doing, and it's a way of giving to the community. Yes. And it's an amazing thing.
So now over to meet Ella Marchant.
Well, welcome, Ella. How lovely to see you. Hi. Well, first of all, I just want to thank you because I came to shul early this week, you know, just to get ready for everything. And who was at the gate, greeting people, keeping them secure, but you, Ella. And I was very inspired, very impressed, because you must be the youngest security officer I've ever seen outside the shul. Is that right? Would you be the youngest one?
I think maybe of the team. I think so, of the committee.
And I think it's great. And I was just interested. Thank you for coming on to Norrice Lea TV, the most important TV station in the country,
of course,
in the world. And I just thought I want people to know that you do it, because hopefully it will inspire others to get involved as well. But I want to just hear from you, what made you get involved? You're getting out of bed early on a Shabbat morning, because you were there for, what time were you there?
I was there at 8 o'clock this morning.
Right, 8 o'clock on a Shabbat morning. That's very early. What inspired you to do it?
So it's actually quite an interesting one. I've always been I've always done martial arts and self-defense, and I've done kickboxing since I was about 7 or 8, and I have a black belt in that. And then actually on top of that, so I was always interested in like the martial arts side, but then through that, my uncle was very, very involved in the CST, like incredibly involved, and like did a lot of work. And he actually unfortunately got very ill a couple of years ago. And he always said to me, like he said to me, sort of even before he was ill, he said to me, oh, you've got to do the course when you turn 18, you've got to do the course, you've got to get involved. And I didn't really ever, like obviously I thought I'd do it, but I never got round to it. And then when he was ill, I thought, you know what, I'm actually going to go and do it. And he doesn't do active sort of service anymore because he can't, but now I'm able to, which is really nice. So that's what like kind of gave me the kickstart to actually get on, do the course, go through.
So when you were 18, you did the CST training. Yeah. How long did that take?
It was a 4-day residential course. It was over it was over the Christmas holidays.
Oh, it's great that they do it over holidays so students can do
it.
And are you involved on, because you're at Nottingham, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
Are you involved with security on campus as well?
Yeah, I am. So this last academic year, I've actually just stood down, but I was the team leader for Nottingham, which meant that I organised like basically the security that was needed whilst we were there, like for the events. And for the most common thing that I organised was the Chabad security for like the regular Friday nights.
Right. So
getting the team for that, organising the rota, making sure all the kit was in the right place, making sure everything ran smoothly on the night. What else did I do? So then also was sort of did almost risk assessments to see if security was necessary at events, and various campus things, JSOC events, arranging things for that, being the contact point for CST through the university. If there were any sort of anti-Semitic issues, I was one of the places that people could report to.
Amazing.
And then I've actually just stood down for my final year, and I'm being taken over. But
I really happy with your successor? Someone good?
Sorry?
Have you got someone to succeed you?
Yeah. I helped sort of like interview and find the person, and he's been on the team for the last 2 years.
I see, right.
Yeah, we know him well.
And did you get enough support, do you find, from fellow students when you needed help?
You know what, we actually did, and I was surprised. It sounds terrible, but I was surprised by that, because I found that everyone that I knew or was told had done the same course as I'd done was very willing to be involved.
Okay.
There are a few. So we had regulars. I'd say we had a group of maybe 5 regulars, but these were people that were going to Friday night anyway, so we're happy to do the security. And then we had a few that were going home for weekends or this and that, but we didn't really ever struggle for numbers, which was really lucky, because I know that in other universities that they have occasionally struggled for numbers.
Yeah. So does that mean you missed out on Friday night dinner if you were on the gate?
Yeah, so pretty much it did, but the way that we did it sort of worked, that we made sure that people got to eat, and that or food was brought out, or we arranged it so that people were able to still eat and still enjoy have the Friday night vibe. And there was often weeks where people were sort of just, if I done maybe 3 in a row, and I was thinking, oh, like, could really do without it this week. Like, it was usually enough people that it could cover someone going in and just enjoying their meal.
Or at least do it in shifts, that, I'm giving half an hour to actually eat. Yeah, but I hope people actually had that respect to appreciate what you were doing and bring something out for you. Do you have to look after those that look after us? I was thinking the same on Shabbat morning. You weren't inside the shul governing, but it was thanks to you being on the outside that everyone else was able to be on the inside. Right. So it's a tremendous merit. How long have you been doing it for now?
About a year and a half, year and 8 months. Yeah.
So what made you do it in the shul? Because as you said, you're doing it at university, and you thought you'll bring your experience here as well.
Yeah. So what actually happened was, on the last day of the course, when they give you your certificate and you have the award or whatever, there's a list, and you sort of sign up what shul you go to, so they can contact you for security. And then Danny actually Danny Green contacted me and said, would I like to be on the committee? I'd be the second female member and the youngest member, but I thought, do you know what, that would be nice, like, if he was happy with me maybe not doing as regular, because obviously I'll be at university,
right,
but with the intention of obviously after carrying on, would I like to? And I met Danny, and I spoke to Danny, and I thought, absolutely, it sounds great.
Fantastic.
Sounds great.
It's great. We need people like you, just to be there on a volunteer basis, to doing such important work. What do you think would inspire other people your age to get involved as well? I'm not talking about coming to shul, I'm talking about volunteering, because the community needs so many different parts, and security is one of the most important parts of it, because we couldn't do anything otherwise. What would you say to people your age to get them involved?
What I think I would say, I mean, as the rabbi, it might not be, obviously you want people to go to shul, but for me, like, it's a great way to be involved in the community, to give my time to be involved with the shul and the runnings of the shul without actually being in the shul, which is I find is really nice. It's a different way of doing it. I like going to shul as well, but for me, I find it's a different way of doing it. I think it's great.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's part of religion as well.
Yeah.
Make no mistake about that. What you're doing is absolutely right. And like I said earlier, it's thanks to you being outside that other people can be inside. So you get the merit of all those praying inside. Honestly.
Yeah, and then also I think that it's great skills. What like I've learned from that and continue to learn. Like, I'm definitely the most inexperienced of the committee, because they've all been doing it for much longer. But I think
by the time you get to their age, you'll be more experienced, because you probably started the youngest. As soon as you turned 18, you started, didn't you?
Yeah, 18 and 18.
So you've got a great life ahead of keeping people secure.
Yeah, I just think it's great skills that you learn, and I'm always learning doing it. Great sort of fitness as well, and the course was quite physically demanding, but like good fun. Met really nice people, and I've met really nice people, particularly within the shul, within the committee, but also at uni. I've like definitely met people that I wouldn't otherwise have met through the committee, and through doing the events. I mean, if you're outside with someone for a few hours, you're going to get chatting.
The whole
yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're going to meet people. You're going to get chatting. So it's been really nice in that sense as well.
It's good socially as well. Fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
Basically, there's nothing not to like about it. Keeps
Yeah.
you fit, it keeps you alert, keeps you social.
Mm.
You might get a bit of food as well, maybe not now during no Kiddish at the moment. I'm really missing that as well. Couldn't you speak to someone?
Yeah. I could do with Kiddish.
Do you get to eat or drink outside? You get a coffee, sure.
Yeah, about 11. So there's always people outside, and then there's always someone in the shul. So at about 11, they'll bring out a coffee or some Kiddish stuff.
Nice.
Usually, but a bit different now. But
yeah, well, you need a coffee. And have you ever has it been ever particularly difficult, like bad weather? Has it been too hot sometimes or too cold?
So I had a run last summer where I did, because I was back for the summer from uni. I think I did 4 over like July and August, and I got sunburnt every single time. Had sun cream on, but still every single time, because you're just outside for a long time. And only once I've sort of had like torrential rain, but other than that, to be honest, it's been okay.
It must be hard standing like almost still in the sun for 3-4. How long? What's your longest shift? 3 hours?
So a normal shul shift would be about 3.5 hours.
It's a long time.
Yeah, but it goes quite quickly.
All right.
The time passes quite quickly.
Well, look, I think you're incredible, and thank you. And I think hopefully whoever's watching this, we need you.
Yeah.
If Ella can do it, you can do it. One thing I've learned is not to mess with you, Ella. You said martial arts, black belt, security trained. That's what we need. So it's fantastic. Thank you. Look, thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you for giving your time to the community. It's appreciated, and I hope people will be inspired to get involved. And if you need the necessary training, do speak to Ella, everybody, and get involved. Especially now and coming up to the High Holy Days, when we may have several satellite services at different locations. And all our reserves are going to be pretty stretched, so we need as many hands on deck as we can. So learn from Ella, everybody. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All the best. Keep up your good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ella. What an inspiration.
That's what I thought. And thank you, Ella, for giving up your time for this. And watch and learn, everybody. Watch and learn. So so we're coming to the end of tonight's episode. Still tonight, coming up at 8 o'clock for Suburb Link, we have a special talk by Rabbi Gideon Weitzman on the halachic perspective on carrier screenings. This is run by the organization Genetics. About certain diseases that are hereditary genetic diseases in the Ashkenazi community. Very interesting. So we're putting that on especially for our 20 to 30-year-olds who are that age group where this is most relevant to check compatibility, etc. It'll be an interesting talk with the science and halacha together. I love those sort of things. So do join us, 8 o'clock. What else, Rabbanette?
And then tomorrow we gear up for Tisha B'Av. We have a Jerusalem tour of the Old City, and so you get this via Zoom as well. This is with a private tour guide, and email Gail for the link. And then on Wednesday we have Tisha B'Av, where you have to book with the shul. So please submit those forms, and hopefully we'll see you there to say Eicha and mourn together.
It will be live streamed. Tisha B'Av will be live streamed.
Correct.
The evening and morning service, and every service is live streamed, by the way. I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. If every morning and evening, the davening, the minyan is live streamed. So if you're saying Kaddish, do join us online. And
via Zoom, right? It's a Zoom link.
There's a Zoom link on. There's a services WhatsApp group. It should go. It's some part of the weekly emails as well. Or just get in touch with any member of staff at the shul. We can get that over to you.
Absolutely.
So do join when you can.
We also have on Tisha B'Av, we have a speaker. We have Charles Lando.
Oh yes.
At 3 o'clock Zoom
at 3
as well.
o'clock. Yeah.
So it should be quite interesting. Yeah.
And you should be getting all the details of that as well in the next couple of days. Zoom links, etc. Charles giving a talk. Which should be a good speaker, so that should be interesting.
I mean, you just talking about the services. We had an amazing Kabbalat Shabbat outdoors. Wasn't that beautiful this past
Yeah,
Friday
yeah,
night?
we did. It had an al fresco minion.
Yes, it was so fresh. It was so free. It was so beautiful. Everybody was able to sing together.
Yeah, the beauty of davening outside is, even though you're not in shul, but you're outside, you don't have to wear a mask, and you can sing. In the building, they don't want you singing because of the pellets, etc. And also you've got to wear a face mask in the building. But outside, we kind of, you can still wear a mask. There were those who did if they felt safer, and that's, recommended, but not required. So I didn't.
I don't know if it's recommended, but I mean, it's definitely.
But you're right. No, maybe it's not recommended.
No, it's not right. I mean, they say it's fine according to the science that the outdoors it disappears, and so it's safe to sing. And it was, I think you meant to sing Kabbalat Shabbat in the outdoors, right? It's something.
It was nice. The first time we were able to sing properly together.
And so yeah, looking forward to doing that this week as well.
And that's really it from us. We are here at Norrice Lea. We will be taking a break over the summer, so there'll be no episodes over August, but we'll meet again in September, please God. And meanwhile, I hope you do get a break or a staycation, have a bit of a change, a bit of respite, and stay safe, everyone.
Stay safe.
See you in the
We'll see you in September. Adios.